I have 18 bosses in my career. I've had one family, but I was making decisions to appease them at different times at the expense of my family. But yet my family stuck around the whole time. And so it's one of those other data points of perspective. It's like, man, we all bend over backwards for people we may never see again.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Life in a Show. I'm the host, Jason Wojo. On this show, we help people make more, work less, and create awesome, amazing, abundant, incredible, I'm out of adjectives, lives. I am joined by Polish Peter, my co-host. What's up, dude?
Should I start throwing more adjectives like the one?
I need to get new ones, man.
Yeah. And
I need to just pull up a thesaurus in front of me and just go through like a 30-word like description of what we want our lives to look like. Because everybody has a different word, right? Like everybody has a different word of the life they want to live.
Yep, but it is their word, and think about it this way. From the perspective of what we're going to be talking about this particular episode is where you at now and where you want to go. And that is going to help you create this way of looking at this kind of stuff. So I'm excited about this particular episode because the guest is coming from a corporate world, right?
Yeah. So we're talking with Cory M Carlson, super cool guy, great story. He was a high level, like significantly high level exec in corporate America. And then all of a sudden he has this kind of like, basically like a crisis moment in his life. And I don't want to give it away yet, but he has to make some big decisions in his life and some big changes have to occur. And he's kind of torn in which direction he should go in and how does he handle it? And so I think it's awesome. There's some great lessons in here. And then we talk about later in the episode, what happens in life when you get knocked down? How do you get back up? Like, how really, in a very tangible way, what are some of the things you can do to get out of that hole quicker and get back on your feet? So it's an awesome episode, man. A lot of lessons in here.
Yeah. So if you are someone who is working for someone right now in the corporate world, or you just like your whatever job you have and you want to go off on your own, I think this will be a great episode for you to listen to and see how you can take some of the lessons, some kind of pointers, some kind of nuggets that he's talking about in this particular episode to help you through this journey.
Yeah, let's do it right now. Here's our episode with Cory. Cory, what's up, man? Welcome to Life in Our Show.
Hey, thank you both for having me. I'm looking forward to having a conversation. I've already enjoyed the conversation before we hit record, so it's pretty fun.
I just want to acknowledge the fact that we have another guy on the show with a great looking hair. And so that's it.
And I don't, right? Yeah, I get it. Okay, I see how this is going to go. Well, man, listen. I'm super excited to have you on the show because I think you are going to resonate a lot with our audience, not only in terms of like your history, your pedigree, the way you kind of have transitioned out of corporate America and gone into business for yourself, but also like your values and the way you perceive things. So your first book, which is it's called Win at Home First, obviously talks about this dichotomy and the sometimes contradictory kind of roles of business and personal life. And so we're aligned very heavily on that as well, where we believe like the, true fulfillment, true passion in life and all things that are really important are many times not related to your job. Now, certainly you can have those things that are wonderful, but if failing at home is not something you want to do. And that was a really successful book for you. And that's awesome. And our audience should go pick it up. Again, it's called Win at Home First. But one of the things that I thought would be awesome for us to talk about is kind of this journey for you from corporate America into this new position, well, kind of new position for you as helping other people, other executives and successful business leaders, be successful themselves in multidimensional ways. And so talk to us, rewind the clock for us. You worked your way, you worked your way up in corporate America. And then tell us what happened that started to like shift your way of viewing work and life and the balance and what you were most passionate about.
Yeah, I would about 10 years ago, I was VP of a $120 million division, and on the outside, it all looked great. It was, I had the title. I had been transferred from Kansas City to Denver and now to Cincinnati. So I'd been moving up the corporate ladder with this company. And now I was managing people older than me. I'd even leapfrog my boss and I was managing him. And so on the outside, it all looked great, like way to go. But man, on the inside, I wasn't happy. I mean, I had imposter syndrome. Like what's going to happen if they find out that I don't know everything? Or, and then what also was happening is I was skipping the gym so I could work more or reply to every single email, or I'd skip out on quiet time because I had too much work to do. And I remember different times where the family would kind of be playing on the carpet and I had my laptop on my lap and not engaging with them. And I just was like, there's got to be a better way. I mean, I don't know what that better way is. Right? I mean, I've been striving my way to the top and made it to a great level. But I just I don't know if I want to keep doing this, or I can't keep doing it this way. And I was reading books and podcasts and it sounded like there was a better way. I just didn't know that better way. So I went to my boss and just said, hey, Tom, I love working for you, which it was a true statement. I did, but we just traveled every week, different directions. So I didn't get a lot of time with them. But when I did, it was awesome. And so anyways, I just said, hey, I need some help. This is hard, and hard. And he's like, hey, get an executive coach. I've always had one. And so I was like, man, I wish you would have told me this sooner. But anyways, I ended up hiring an executive coach, and it changed my life. And I know that sounds extreme, but one, it did, because that's what I do for a living now. But also it changed my life just because I saw life differently. It wasn't just about cleaning out my inbox. It wasn't just about filling my schedule with everything so I felt busy, looked busy. Instead, it just gave me kind of new priorities of how to go about my life. And like this whole show's mission is about helping people create a life that they love. And I started to get that. I started to get a little bit of this. Oh, wait, I'm actually kind of loving these changes in my life, becoming a better father where I was intentional with my kids, a better husband where I was serving my wife better. We were going on dates and it just kind of changed. And then plus I was intentional with those that reported to me, all my direct reports, and then those that reported to them. I was just intentional with my one-on-one meetings with them. And how can I serve them? What are the big rocks we're going after for this quarter? And I just really dialed in my leadership with them. And so I ended up taking one more corporate move where I was president of sales for a national contractor. And I had 30 salespeople throughout the country reporting to me. And this is how I led. I mean, I talked about their personal life. I talked about being intentional with their time. Are they time blocking, in their 8 to 5 hour day? And I just saw it change. And so what happened was, after I saw a difference in my life, I saw those 30 individuals get better. I was like, I want to go do this for a living. So that began my journey to, go into executive coaching. I never thought I'd do it. I mean, I'm a sales guy, kind of by career, 20 years in corporate America. I loved it. But when I saw this other opportunity and to go help people realize, hey, they don't have to be stuck in the status quo. They don't have to have a stale marriage. They don't have to be absent from their kids. And so anyways, that's been what's happening for these last few years. But that's what got me up to this point, Jason.
Man, so I have a question for you, and this is, I think sometimes people believe that you have to kind of choose, it's going to be my family or it's going to be my work. Can you have both?
I think 100% you can't have both. Yes, you can. I think it could look different. I think you may have to say no to some things that feel in the short term that you're missing out on, especially if we're talking about work. You're missing out. You really should go to that happy hour. It's a great time to network. You should skip your kid's game because you never know what's going to happen in that happy hour. But I think if you play the long game and you make those right personal choices and for the family, then in the end you win. I did a keynote, I don't know, 9 months ago or something. But I was preparing for my talk, and it came to me like, I wanted to bring this story in. I never thought about it, but up until this time. And so I counted. I have 18 bosses in my career. I've had one family. I've had 18 different bosses, and from my time at the different companies I've been in, Kansas City, Denver, Cincinnati, all the different bosses, I've listed them all out. I assign names to them. There's proof in the list. But here's the deal. I don't know where many of them are right now. I couldn't even tell you the state that they lived in because I've lost touch of them. But I was making decisions to appease them at different times at the expense of my family. But yet my family stuck around. the whole time.
Right.
And so it's one of those other data points of perspective of it's like, man, we all bend over backwards for people we may never see again. And we just got to be really careful about that. So I think, one thing is, yes, we have to work hard. I mean, absolutely. There are times where it's all about work, but then you've got to recalibrate and then spend time with the family. And I think that's the disconnect is they think it's all work and therefore no family, or, if I hear Cory right, it's all family, no work. No, not at all. I mean, it's a recalibration. So if I've got a busy season at work, I have to communicate well with my family. Hey, these are some different things that are coming up, family, so that when that season's over, I then make sure I'm hanging out with the family. I dial back at work. Maybe we do a staycation as a family. We've done a lot of staycations here in Cincinnati where it's just like we just all hang out together.
So listen, I got a quick question for you because I think we see this quite often, like what you just example of you said, like I had 18 bosses, I have one family. I think that's a very kind of a sobering kind of realization, right? So why do you think that people do go and 18 bosses versus the family? Why do you think that happens? Because I think that happens quite often in the corporate world, in the business world, and people have their own companies. That they give so much to the outside world, to the corporate world, and I don't think they're doing it on purpose. Do you?
No. I mean, there may be one individual out there doing it on purpose or whatever, trying to get away from home. But no, as a whole, I think everyone has great intentions. But I think a driver of it's fear. It's fear. If I say no to, this request from my boss, or if I say no to going out of town 3 weeks out of the month, if I say no to this happy hour, I'm going to get overlooked for the promotion. I will be left in the dust. And that could be a real fear. I mean, even to this day in my job, I have to balance that tension because there's always another LinkedIn request I could go try to make. There's always a phone call I could try to make to say, hey, do you need a speaker or do you need a coach or try to get on another podcast? I mean, it's endless. And so I think that is something all of us need to come to grips with is no matter what you do, you'll never be caught up. There will always be. There are a lot of cool parts in Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game. But one thing that really just stood out to me is just that overall idea that business and really kind of life is infinite. Like there's never an end. You get done with the quarter. Well, guess what? Here's the next quarter. You get done with the fiscal year. Guess what? It's another fiscal year. And he makes the point that infinite is that's business where sports are finite. There's a beginning and there's an end. There's a first game and then there's a Super Bowl. And then it starts all over again. But business is just continuing to build on. And so for me, for some, that may be daunting, like, oh, you'll never clean out your old inbox or you'll never have enough, time to get all the LinkedIn requests, whatever that is. It may feel, a little bit, of a bummer, but the reality is that is what it is. And so I think there should be peace in that to know, hey, put in your best, call it 8 to 5 or whatever your time is. And then afterwards be present with the family or go to the gym or have your quiet time. For me, a phrase that in 2020 came to me, and I've really just, I control the input, God controls the impact. And so I'm going to work hard, but we'll kind of see what happens with it. I've written 2 books. Do I wish they both were New York Times bestsellers? Absolutely. But for some reason, it's not going down that path at this moment. Who knows? Maybe something will happen, crazy, in the next year. But I'm still have to show up every day, do my writing, do my posting, serving my clients well, sending them texts of encouragement or holding them accountable to some goal they're pursuing. And, the impact's out of my control.
I think that's a great point, man, because if you look at it as a finite game, you're always trying to get to that finish line, and there is no finish line, and you will consistently strive to, quote unquote, catch up when there is no such thing as catching up, because there's always more opportunity. There's always more to do. There's always something else. And so at some point you got to get off the get off that, hamster wheel and kind of be like, and reassess. And for me, I always kind of think like, okay, I know I'm never going to catch up, but here's my margin of how far, behind or quote unquote that I still feel like I'm caught up. So like, it's just a recalibration that, I realize like, if I'm missing the gym, if I can't get my workouts in because I'm always busy, something needs to change. And so you had this revelation that like hey, things are a little bit out of whack. I need to adjust. Tell me about like, so you're, and I'm curious about this, man, because like I can see what I see here is you have a job, a high position job that gives you credibility. It gives you acknowledgement. You're getting significance from it. You're doing really well. And now all of a sudden you decide you want to start helping other people do this. And that to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like that was where you felt like your heart was calling you and God is calling you to impact and make a change for other people that now you've started to experience. What was that like? Like, did you have any challenges with it? You're like, oh my gosh, I've been on this path forever. Who am I to go start coaching people? And how, what was that like?
Oh man, it was a wild journey, and for sure. I mean, it's a great question because hopefully my answer is very helpful to listeners. At different parts of my answer will resonate with some different listeners. So before I left corporate, I had this significant tension in my life of, do I leave corporate and go start coaching? And the tension, I mean, and all, share my all vanity is, wait, I'm going to leave the best title I've ever had, president of sales, and go basically be a bottom feeder coach. I'm going to leave the best salary I've ever had to go start at zero with a wife and 3 kids. And at the time, I think when I left, I think my daughter was probably 11. Yeah, probably 11. And then my other daughter would have been 7. And then my son would have been 3. So 11, 7, 3 is when all this was happening. So the tension had got so bad that I actually was grinding my teeth at night, which I knew I already grind my teeth. So that wasn't a surprise. But the surprise was I was grinding my teeth so bad that I actually ended up getting like a lockjaw.
Wow.
And so I got this lockjaw because I wanted to go coach. I felt I was being called to go coach, but I didn't have the guts to go do it. So I felt this piece of disobedience. I felt this, am I missing out on my purpose? And so this tension just happening. And I was trying to do some, side coaching or coaching on the side, which, wasn't working out super great. Just because, usually I do it after hours, which was kind of going against my whole, belief of when I'm home first. There. But anyways, that was the tension. And so anyone who's feeling it, I mean, it's real. I had it. But I was trying to build up a case to make the leap, but it was taking time. And I think that's another big part for, that listener is sometimes when we want to make the change now, like I've decided I want to go coach. I want to go coach now, but there were parts that had to take place. Like my wife had to get comfortable with it. I don't know if you guys are big into like self-assessment. I'm sure you are, but it's self-assessments, but the Enneagram. That's one I love. And my wife's a 6, which means she has tons of questions. Doesn't necessarily mean that she doubts me. Although before I knew the Enneagram, I thought every question she had doubted me and made me feel stupid. Like, what, you don't think I did the research? Come on. But instead, it's her, a 6 is loyal. They just have to ask questions to prepare their heart and their mind of how far left will they go? How far right will they have to go on the journey? But they're going to be with you. Well, one of the big things that we had to spend some time on is she had to unravel this. When she married me, I was a civil engineer. I was going to climb that ladder of being a CEO of an engineering firm. And I hear all of a sudden I'm kind of doing this entrepreneurial, let's go be a coach and see what happens. So she had some stuff that had to be worked on in her. Where's our insurance going to come from? What about consistent provision? Because you get a consistent salary. It's a good salary. Now we're going to go. Who knows the volatility of coaching. So like God had to work in her. God had to work in me. I had my identity tied to title. I had my identity tied to salary. Not only identity, I also had scarcity versus abundance. I to be honest, I lean more towards a scarcity mindset. I've grown significantly more to abundant mindset, but I was more a scarcity. So some of these things that take a while we're in the waiting room, if you think of it that way, we need to be in the waiting room to allow God to work in and through us, as well as our spouses, on a journey. So that's all taking place, that I'm getting more and more kind of used to this idea of I could be a coach. I could get rid of the title. I could get rid of the salary and do something different. My wife's getting ready. So it all comes to a head in August of 2016. I get fired.
That's one way of making a choice, right?
That's right.
Yeah, right.
I encourage everybody to go make bold choices. I really do, but I'll tell you, I didn't do it. The choice was made for me. But here's the cool part about it. No, there's two cool parts. One, if I would have been fired, probably with 6 months or a year prior, I would have been a head case. I would have been just so bummed. But when I got fired, I'd already, God had been softening my heart and kind of opened me up to this possibility. And maybe I could, in fact, be an entrepreneur and get rid of the label of a corporate America guy or an exec and go to this entrepreneur, be a coach. So that was one thing. The other thing was I got a 4-month severance package. So I got that 4-month severance package. I called my wife. I said, babe, I got good news. I got bad news. The bad news is I just got fired. Good news is I got a 4-month severance package. Can I go try coaching? And she said, yes, you got 4 months.
All right.
So I got the 4 months, and then, maybe this will be of value to somebody as well, but I could not get coaching in the 4 months all the way up to what my salary was. But it wasn't exactly 50%, but I got it to a level that, call it 50%, I felt good with. I just wanted something equal to that also. Mm-hmm. And I did. Yeah. I found through just some cool connections, a local manufacturer here in Cincinnati that I helped with business and business development and sales. And so I ended up doing this 50-50 arrangement for a while. And then I kept working on growing coaching and speaking, and I got to 75-25. And then I got it to 90-10. And then March 1st, 2020, I went all in 100% coaching, speaking, and then, said goodbye to the manufacturer who'd helped me get there. So that's kind of the whole journey there was call it almost a peeling away of identity and things that took place leading up to me getting terminated by the private equity group. So that was part of the process that needed to happen. And then coming out of it was the part of the process that happened was that stair stepping to get me eventually to a revenue of 100%. And so that's kind of the whole process that it took place. And I think a lot of times when we just pay attention to social media or whatever, we just think, well, if you want to go do it, well, just stop, go now, right? Go dream, and it takes a little more than that sometimes.
Well, I mean,
it doesn't happen overnight, huh?
Yeah, it really does. And I love that, man, because to me, it feels much more methodical, thought out, intentional. You're minimizing risk. Now, and I know I hear some people I'll build my parachute on the way down. All right, well, I hope there's no tangles in your lines, because that's probably not the best way to do that. And so I'm very much the same way, Cory, where I prefer a much more methodical approach to that. And what I'm also doing is, you're building your confidence along the way too. You're honing your chops, and you're getting better as you get better. The more you do it, the more you improve, and the more people you help, and it kind of starts to just become like this really kind of reinforcing positive cycle of income as well as experience as you grow and grow. Now, something interesting happened though as we get into in 2020, right? There was a global shutdown, right? And so now this is also, to my understanding, the beginning of those seeds for the second book. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. Went a Home First, I wrote because it was my first book, because I lost at home first. And so everything I learned to kind of get back up, restore my marriage, become a better, more intentional parent, and figure out boundaries of work and home, I put it in the book because it helped me and it helped others. Well, as we we're joking before we hit record, my second book became another story of me falling and having to kind of get back up and put together some pieces for a book. And so March 1st, 2020, I went all into coaching. March 13th, it was a Friday, which I'm not a superstitious guy, but Friday the 13th is kind of an odd thing. But that is when all the travel restrictions kicked in. stay at home, mask mandates, all of those pieces. Well, that day I got a couple emails from clients in Washington, D.C. and Kansas City, Missouri that canceled speaking engagements. I had a couple of different speaking engagements and workshops that were lined up. And so in that day, I lost 35% of my revenue. It vanished. So we just went all in as a family on March 1st to say we're going into coaching, speaking. And all of a sudden, 35% revenue gone in 2 weeks. And it was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen to the other 65%? I mean, is it all going away? I mean, was this just some crazy idea? And I got scared. I got frustrated, and I got frustrated, God, because over the last decade, quiet time, scripture reading, prayer has been a big part of my life. Now, I don't do it. I'm not perfect. I don't do it every single morning like I'd like to, but I've been pretty darn consistent over the last decade. Well, my quiet times weren't necessarily very quiet this time because I was just frustrated. It's like, wait, is this like just another time I got impatient and just went too fast? Like, I thought we were doing something together here. Mm-hmm. God, like 50-50, 75-25, 90-10. Like, what happened? I thought this was happening. And so over the course of a couple months that March, April, May, June, right in there, I just kept getting pointed to like cool scripture that was helping me kind of get back up. On my podcast, Win a Home First, I'd have neat stories of resilience by guest, and that was helping me. I'd hear other inspirational stories. And so I was kind of putting this stuff together for myself, like just kind of, maybe I'd do some writing or write out in my journal or whatever. And what was interesting is this content was helping me to get back up. Then over the course of that year, I'd had about 60 executive clients kind of go through my coaching program. And in the process, one of them would have a struggle that day. And, and I'd just say, you know what? This morning I was kind of reading this and thinking about this. I wrote this. What do you think? And like, oh, this is great. It helped. And so the content got battle tested over that year. And after it helped myself, it helped them. I was like, all right, well, here's a book. So I put together a book. It's called Rise and Go. And it's, the whole thesis of the book is that all leaders get knocked down. It's just the great leaders get back up quicker. So what could it look like in your life if the next time you get knocked down, you were able to get up quicker? And so the book is 20 chapters. The first 10 are to give you the courage to get back up. And then the next 10 chapters are to give you the confidence to move forward. And so they're kind of bite-sized chapters with reflection questions at the end to help you with different things such as hope, gratitude, perseverance. And so it's been fun to have it as a resource for leaders out there.
Hey, so let me interrupt this episode. And before we get back into it, here's what I want to share with you guys. One of the things that we do throughout the year all over the country is we do this event called Business Builder Event. This is the event where we literally outline, help you figure out and create a business that you love and a business that support your life. One of the things that we found over the years that many people become basically a slave or work an employee to their business, and they're working so much in their business that they don't actually get to live their life. And in this particular workshop, we help you redesign that, a business that supports your life. So what do you want to have for them, Bojo? What do we have for them because of that?
Man, well, Peter, because they are loyal listeners, and I know they're tuned in every week, and they've told everyone in their life about the Life in Air Show podcast, we have a very, very special offer for you. Now, by the way, I don't know how long we're going to offer this, so this isn't forever. But if you go to lifeinair.com right now and you go to the events tab and then you go to the Business Builder Workshop, you can, when you pick the event you want, when you go to that checkout page, there's a little place right there. It says enter promo code. And guess what? We have a promo code for you for 50. That's 50, half. 50% off the ticket for the Business Builder Workshop by entering the promo code podcast into the promo code field. Instantly, you'll get a 50% savings. You'll see it right there on the screen, and you will be registered for that event. And here's the cool thing. You will be off to the races to create a life and a business that complement each other for the first time, maybe ever. And it's amazing.
One more thing I want to share with you before we jump back into the episode is this. One of the participants at our recent podcast, he was in a hot seat. We do these hot seats in front of the room, and we kind of dissect their business. And one suggestion that he got him, he made the change, went home, made the change, and pretty much within a few months went into stage 4, meaning into his business, that the business basically supported his life. The income that was coming, the cash flow that was coming into his business, by making that one change, started living in a way that he doesn't have to work for the business works for him. So I would encourage you guys, head over to the website, learn about this event, type in podcast, and we'll see you on the next event. Now let's get back into the episode.
Do we have time to dive into, a couple tips that you have for people that are stuck? Like if someone's been knocked down, whether it's, in their health, in their business, in their finances, and in the relationships, are there common things that people can reflect on or benefit from knowing so that they can get up quicker?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we mentioned before we hit record is love to give all the listeners who want one of the free, whatever book they want for free. Just pay for shipping and handling. So my website's corymcarlson.com/free book. You just go there, you pick the book you want, you pay shipping and handling, put your address in, and our team will send out a book. Cool, there's no scam. It's legit. Yeah. I'll send you the book. I want more people to read it. And so, I'd say there's two things. Usually when we get knocked down, there's obviously 20 things, but the two I'd share right now that just kind of come to mind. And, a lot of times when we get knocked down that valley, we think that's just where we're stuck. It's kind of where we've always been, whether it's the devil gets in our head or whether it's head trash, or maybe it's somebody said something. But when we get knocked down, maybe we've lost some revenue, or maybe we've been working on being a good parent for a while and we lost our temper last night with our son when they went and brush their teeth. Or maybe, we have started some good habits of journaling or not drinking or whatever it is. All of a sudden you slip up and you skip journaling, or you have the drinks, or whatever that case may be. Or maybe this quarter financially is not as good as you'd hoped and the trend's going down. Well, what happens is we get in that valley and it all goes to crud. We start to think, well, we'll never be a good dad. We'll never be a good spouse. Maybe I'm just not that good of a business leader. Maybe this trend's just always going to go down. And we just hear this head trash. And so a lot of times it becomes almost immobile. And we're just like, oh man, this is just how it's going to be. So one exercise I have to do myself, but I also have my clients do, is to stop. And, the cover of the book, Rise and Go, it has this graph, up and to the right. Like we like all financial graphs, all graphs that go up and to the right. But if we ever look close, there's peaks and valleys along the way. Mm-hmm. And so I'll draw it and I'll say, here you go. And you're in a valley. You're in a valley right now. You're hearing the lies that you're not good enough. You're hearing the lies you've always been here. You're hearing the lies that you'll always be stuck here. And that's all a lie. And so the first thing to do is, hey, look back, look how far you've come. Like this is a graph and you may be in a valley right now. No doubt about it. You may have slid from last month, slid down, or last quarter, whatever it is, but look from the beginning of when this whole graph started. I lost 35% of my revenue. That's awful. But man, I gained 65%. I gained that amount. Going from zero, going from corporate into coaching. I did that. Thanks to God's provision and the network and all those pieces. And so I'll have my clients list out some things that they're grateful for. What are things that you've seen success? And it's awesome how it starts to change, right? What we seek, we find. And so for that listener, if you are in that valley, list out things that you're grateful for. And this isn't, woo-woo stuff. It's legit. Our brain focuses on really kind of what we're looking for, right? The RAS, a reticular activating system of our brain, where we focus on whatever we want. We want to focus negativity, we're going to find more of it. We want to focus on positivity, we're going to find more of it. And so start listing things out, things you're grateful for, the way your family's grown, or your business has grown, or your friendships, or whatever that area of your life that's getting you down. And so that can be a significant fruit. Once we establish that, because we got to establish a foundation, then we got to kind of remember why we're in the game. And so we have to look forward. So the second part is looking forward and kind of put hope back into it. Mm-hmm. go to that next peak. And so what is that hope for you? Is it your why statement? Is it a vision statement? A big part that was significant in my life when I was in corporate and I was wanting to get out. But this is a little bit before I wanted to get into coaching. But I just was like, is this serious? What I'm on earth for is just to try to grow revenue for this company, EBITDA, and try to improve EBITDA every year. Is that it? And as I talked to my coach, he helped me think about not just think about the revenue EBITDA, but actually put together a vision statement for my life. What is my vision statement? And what happened was I put together a vision statement. I use this process. There's many processes out there that work. And I'm not saying there's a better one or not. I just know mine worked. And it's in the Win a Home First book. And we use the 5 P's and you list out, like what are problems you've overcome? Well, some of the problems I've overcome was losing a home. I don't want to see another leader lose at home. Put together my vision statement. My vision statement is to connect people to greater performance and even more significant purpose. And what I love about that for me, it doesn't have to do anything for either one of you. It doesn't have to do anything for a listener because it's mine. Just like yours may not motivate me, it just needs to motivate you. So what happened is when I would travel to Nashville to work with a sales engineer that lived there, I wasn't just focused on revenue or improving profitability for the company. Instead, I was thinking, hey, how can I help him perform better at his job, in his home? And then how can I connect him to a greater purpose? If he was a faith believer, then I could talk about Jesus. If he wasn't, then a more selfless life. And what was cool is that's the stuff that started to help the company grow. That's the stuff that helped me enjoy my job more. And so when I get in a valley, I've got to get back to my vision statement of, hey, why do I think I'm uniquely and wonderfully made? And that helps. So it's a combination of gratitude, look back, see how far you've come in whatever area you're in a funk, and then look forward. What's that vision statement or that 3-year dream or 1-year dream? What is it you're even building for? So those 2 pieces can be very helpful to, and hopefully they help with that listener.
Man, I love that. I think that's great because, on one hand, you're building an appreciation and a gratitude for all the things you've accomplished. And that like, hey, I am capable. Hey, I have done all this. I have accomplished all these things. And then that why ties it back into why you want to continue, why you have to get back up, why you have to continue going. And, I love that kind of that push pull like combination. I think it's really powerful, man. That's awesome. And so do you think that, is this something that people have to do daily or regularly or like what, like, so would you recommend that even this is something that people do when they're not down necessarily? Like maybe this is just a good part of your day, like to assess this regularly.
Absolutely. I've got a couple different documents, things that I will look at. One, at the back of the book, Rise and Go, I put together a Rise and Go manifesto. It's an 8 framework document. I'm not the first one to come up with the idea of manifesto, but I put together these 8 parts of this document, and it's in a Google Doc. It's 14 pages long. I do not look at it every day, but there are days that I proactively will look at it. I'll just scroll through it. I won't read the whole thing, but there's some chunks and I'll kind of, flip through it. There's I am statements in there that are super helpful to me. There are some vision board items in there, and I've got some different affirmations. Anyways, it's all in there. And so I'll proactively look at it occasionally, but I'll reactively look at it when I've just, felt like I just got my teeth kicked in. And so I'll go to it. So that's one thing. But then I also think that we've got to armor up every day. And what is that meditation for some people? Is that prayer? Is that scripture? We've got to do things every day. I know the days that my best days are when I go to the gym in the morning and I have my quiet time. I go into the day confident, energy. I feel like I've got more wisdom and ability to discern the chaos of the day. If a prospect says no, I'm like, oh, that's all right. I can handle it. Let's go. But those days that I love the phrase, you win the day the night before. So if I stay up too late the night before, I decide I needed a couple more cookies or I needed another bourbon, then the next day I skip my gym. My quiet time sucks if I even attempted it. And then I go through the day and I'm kind of like a buoy in water, just getting tossed around and everything just kind of hurts a little bit more. And so I think if we are intentional about how we go about our day, man, we can have much more incremental growth than if we're not intentional. So, Jason, to answer the question, I do. I mean, I think it's cool to have some documents that you can kind of go to occasionally, like, oh, I'm going to pull out my vision board, or, I mentioned my Rise and Go manifesto. Yes, have some of those big anchor pieces for sure. But man, I think it's every single day doing those consistent things. I just came across this quote this morning. I'm going to butcher it because I didn't memorize it, but it's more important what we do consistently every day than those big one-time events.
Yeah. Man, I love that. I wanted to just express how grateful I am that you've shared your journey with people and been vulnerable and open. Like, hey, here's what happened to me, and here's how I got up. And I think that personal experience, the story, allows you to give people the permission that, hey, you're gonna have maybe similar circumstances and situations in your life, and I made it past it, and you can too. Like, I didn't hear you say there's anything special about you necessarily, other than you've kind of put the time into figuring out and sharing with others how you overcame it. And so I think that gives hope to other people who similarly, like, are maybe. And what I love about your story, man, is like there's a place there's many junctions where people can relate to. So maybe somebody has been down a path that they no longer feel passionate about, and they're scared to go on and fearful to move into something new for them. Maybe it's not coaching, but it's another career, or it's something else. Or maybe they feel like they've sacrificed their family and there's no recovering from that. And they have to, deal with those consequences and give up. And so, or it's maybe moving into an area of impact. And like, there's so many different avenues. I think you're influencing people. So I really want to just acknowledge you and just express how grateful we are for having you on the show, man. So repeat one more time. I'm on your website now, Cory M Carlson. That's Cory with the C, by the way, for our listeners, Cory, and Carlson with the C, CARLSON.com. Where do people go to get the free book if they'd like to get that?
Yeah, one thing you missed on the book is, on the website, it's Cory M Carlson. You may have said that, but
did I not say that? Okay,
you may have. I don't know, but there is somebody beat me to it. Some wildlife painter.
Oh gosh, okay, that's not.
I need to go in partnership
Cory
with them.
M.
That's right,
as in Mary Carlson. Yeah.
And anyways, CoryMCarlson.com/free book, and I would love to send you a free book. Just pay shipping and handling, please. And yeah, just to reinforce what you said, Jason, and thanks. I mean, you let the cat out of the bag. There's nothing secret or superpowers about me. But no matter where you are at, to the listener, is don't accept wherever you're at as status quo. I mean, your marriage, your health, your, this is just who I am. I mean, no, you can totally change any of that. And unfortunately, for me, I've got stories of all of those things. I hit rock bottom in my marriage due to some stupid choices. I almost filed bankruptcy due to some aggressive real estate I tried to do in 2008, right before the recession. So I got a lot of bad timing stories in my life. But no, the reason I am vulnerable is because, one, it's true. I'm not going to hide behind some veneer. I got my stuff figured out. I'm trying every single day to bring, glory to God through, just trying to get better every single day, for me. But when it comes to kind of call it secrets or untold stories like that, the devil loves nothing more than those secrets. Because if a bunch of guys are sitting around a coffee table, around a bar having a beer, and everyone's acting like they got their stuff together and their marriage is amazing and their job's awesome and life's so cool, that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
It's not true. And if you're around those tables and everything's absolutely amazing, find a new group. Because they're all, if guys are talking about how cool, and women do it too. Obviously, I don't hang around a lot of women's circles, but I know that there are, though, everyone just acts like everything's amazing. And it's not for anybody. The coolest part about my job of coaching business leaders is I'm no longer nervous about talking to anybody, because now I've talked to so many people, they're all broke. They all got their challenges. They may make more money, but they still got problems. Yep, and so if you're listening, you got some challenges, you are not alone. You're not alone. All of us have them. And so just grab one thing that one of us said today on the show and just try to implement it. Don't implement it all. Don't go write a Rise and Go manifesto and do quiet time every day and date your wife and be intentional with your kids and find a new job. All of that. Just one thing at a time. And if it gets going pretty good, great. Grab another one and then try another one.
Love it, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on Life in Our Show. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Man, that was a cool conversation. I enjoyed having that discussion with him, man. Can you, and I related a lot to, and I think maybe some of our listeners can as well, man. Like, here he is. He's gone down this path for a super long time. He's achieved a high level of success, and all of a sudden he's like almost starting over from scratch, right? But I love how he did it, in that he, took these progressive steps. And not, now, he didn't mention this in the episode, but I wonder if he had deadlines like, hey, by this date, I want to make 50% of my salary or 75% or anything like that. But the reason it resonated with me, man, is because, I spent 15 years in school to be a scientist. Dude, literally 15 years in school to be a scientist.
So don't listen to Vojo when it comes to that, okay?
Yeah, right. And so so I had a very similar moment in my life where I had to like make this huge identity shift, as well as when I made the shift out of my W-2 into at that point, is real estate investing full time. I did a few deals while I still had a job, kind of similar to him, where I wanted to start building up my confidence that I could actually do this. And then I made the full-time leap. So I resonated a lot with that story, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, he had one of the deadlines. I think, after he got fired, he got 4 months, right? His wife said,
that's true. That's true.
4 months to put something in there. And I think that is important for people when they are going on this journey to have something in that. But one thing that I want to make sure that people get from this particular episode is, think about it this way. A lot of times life hits you across the face or whatever, between the eyes, however you want to look at it. And it's how you react that really matters, I think. He mentioned that, 2008, he went real estate and it didn't work out so well, right? Right before the whole 2008 hit. Then goes full on coaching on March 1st, and then March 13, COVID lockdown, right? And to him, it could be like, man, I just have a horrible timing in life. So I should just stop doing it and then just not making some crazy decisions and making choices and things like that. But how he reacts, that helps him move forward in life, because I think those values, Lee talked about them at one point in this conversation, is what creates him who he needs to be. What helps him grow so he can be successful in life. And I think so when you start looking from that perspective, it's going to help you tremendously make choices in life. It's going to help you react better in life to be able to grow the business or whatever it is that you're up to in your life.
Well, man, I think that's a good point you make, because like he had several kind of hiccups that could have been catastrophic. He mentioned 3 areas, like, his relationship, he almost going into bankruptcy in real estate, and then all of a sudden his coaching business dries up overnight because of, the global shutdown. And so what I hear is that not only does he get up, but he doesn't let that impede his ability to do things in areas that he's not comfortable in. Like, so he's expanding, he's growing, he's trying again. And I also love, man, I love this. I have this image of like, this push pull. And so you have like, things in front of you, your vision, your why, that gives you the reason you got to get up, that gives you the reason you got to move forward. But you also have this, you can look behind you. And we talk about this a lot when we talk about, when you use analogies for how far you've come, is you can look back and see all the things you've accomplished and like, hey, wow, like I never really thought about that. Like, I mean, there's so many things. I think that if we all take the time to like really journal out like all the incredible things we've accomplished, it's pretty amazing. Even if you list those small things, like they cumulatively add up to incredible things, right? And so I think that dynamic, that 1-2 kind of dynamic, really is a very powerful tool to not only move forward over trauma and crisis, but also like just to keep going on a regular day-to-day level.
Right. And I think a lot of the stuff we take it for granted. Here's what I mean by that. If you really think about this, and depending where you're at in your life, if you're in a really deep valley right now, looking for those grateful things might be very difficult for you. But if you think about this, right now where you're at, there was a time in your life where you were really incapable of walking. Something stupid, right? I mean, not stupid, but you couldn't walk, you couldn't talk, you didn't know English or whatever language, and you learned those two things. Think about that for a second, right? If you were thinking about right now, if you're an English-speaking person and you want to learn Spanish or Polish, I would highly encourage you to learn Polish, okay? There's a lot of shi in there, but it's a great language. But if you're looking from the perspective of learning another language, like, oh my God, how could somebody do that? That's very difficult. And all those kinds of conversations you have going on in your life, well, guess what? You learn a language already. So sometimes maybe something significant like this, if you look at it, you have accomplished so much, and then you can springboard from that and start looking from other aspects. Maybe you found a significant other, maybe you have the kids, or maybe, now you're older and one of your kids is going to college, right? Or they've had this job, or you had some kind of an impact on that. So there are so many things in your life that you can look towards to list them out that can show you some of the proof, like little proof in the pudding, that shows you how impactful you are as a person.
Well, dude, I think, and this is, so what I heard is you're pulling resources and experience from other parts of life to the ones that you're challenged with. Like, dude, this sounds ridiculous. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this out loud, but like, there's been many times in my life where I couldn't figure something out or I was struggling with it. And I'm like, you have a freaking PhD from Duke. Are you telling me you can't get this done? And I'm like, you're right. I can do this. Like I accomplished that. I can accomplish this. Like, and I use that success in one area of life and transfer it to somewhere else and just say, come on, man, you're freaking Polish Peter, man. Are you kidding me? You can't do this? Like, of course, right? Like, so the way you talk to yourself, I think has a big deal to it. And like lean on that and give yourself that confidence to do those things. Man, super cool episode. Listen, we hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as us. Do you have anything else, bro? You keep like moving your mouth there a little bit. Like,
no, listen, you can be your best friend and your worst nightmare. You know what I mean? You get to choose. And so when you start, like you just said, being your biggest cheerleader, right?
Yeah,
that matters sometimes.
So. And you're being your own coach too. Like, come on, man, pull yourself up. Like, and it's better to have, by the way, we're both strong believers in coach and so is Cory, but like, you're more resourceful and more amazing than you think you are. And it's time you recognize that. So, all right. So hope you enjoyed the episode. Leave us a review, leave us a rating, give us a like, tell somebody about the show. The more, the way we ask for this stuff and the reason we ask for this stuff is because, the better ratings we get and the more likes we get, more subscribers we get, the more we show up in other people's feeds. And why does that matter? Well, that means we can help more people. So together we are a team to empower lives and impact legacies. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everyone.